7 reasons why anxiety can begin for the first time in midlife. Did you know that anxiety is often thought of as something that develops earlier in life? In this video, I will explain why midlife heightens your anxiety, especially in women, and why it is so frequently misunderstood, whilst later in the video, I'll explain what you may be doing every day that will keep your anxiety heightened. Many people associate anxiety with childhood experiences, personality traits, or long-standing patterns of worry. Because of this, women who experience anxiety for the first time in midlife are often very confused by its sudden appearance. And I know I did after caring for my parents until they passed. I was 52 at the time and I found myself with a massive void. I got my time back, but I started to have these horrendous palpitations and panic attacks. I was so frightened, even at night, I would be awakened by these attacks and pains. And I definitely questioned anxiety and how it had emerged, particularly after previously coping so well with the stress, responsibility, and the emotional pressure I was under looking after my parents. Midlife anxiety is frequently misunderstood as a reaction to circumstances alone, such as work stress or family pressures. While these factors do play a part, research increasingly shows that anxiety emerging in midlife is often the result of interactive biological, neurological, and physiological and social changes. Hormonal transitions add that further layer of complexity. So I thought I would explore why anxiety can arise for the first time in midlife and focusing on the evidence from neuroscience, endocrinology, and psychology. So when anxiety appears in your 40s, 50s, often for the first time, it can be confusing, frightening, and deeply unsettling. This isn't anxiety appearing out of nowhere, it's anxiety emerging at the time of real biological, emotional, and neurological change. Midlife is not just a life stage, it can be a period of internal reorganisation. Number 1, midlife is a neurological transition, or simply put, communication within the nervous system. Neurological systems consist of interconnected networks, so the brain, spinal cord, nerves, that facilitate communication to control movement, behaviour and cognition. These transitions refer to the signals sent between the nerves, muscles and the brain. We rarely talk about what actually happens to the brain in midlife. The brain continues to change across adulthood. The systems involved in stress regulation and emotional processing become more sensitive. The brain undergoes gradual alterations in neuroplasticity, stress regulation and emotional processing. One key area involved in anxiety is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure within the brain's temporal lobe, acting as a core component of the limbic system responsible for processing emotions, particularly fear, anxiety, and aggression. It is responsible for detecting threats and initiating stress response. Studies suggest that the amygdala sensitivity may increase under conditions of prolonged stress or hormonal changes. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which helps manage thinking, emotions and behaviour by using executive functions. These are skills you rely on to plan, make decisions and solve problems, stay focused and adjust to new situations. These emotional responses may become less efficient under sustained psychological strain, and this means that the emotional reactions can become more intense or less easily to regulate, even in individuals with no prior history of anxiety. The amygdala, the part of the brain that scans for danger, can become reactive under prolonged stress or hormonal change. And at the same time, the prefrontal cortex of the brain that helps us calm ourselves and rationalise and regulate emotion can become less efficient when the nervous system has been under stress for years. This means emotional reactions may feel stronger and faster and harder to control than ever before. Not because you're weaker, it's just because the system itself is actually changing. Number 2, hormonal change and emotional regulation. For women, hormonal change is one of the most significant contributors to midlife anxiety. Estrogen has a regulatory role in the central nervous system. Estrogen doesn't just affect the body, it directly affects the brain, and it helps regulate serotonin, which stabilizes mood. It supports GABA, which calms the nervous system. It influences adrenaline and neuroadrenaline, which affects alertness and anxiety. During perimenopause and menopause, estrogen levels can fluctuate and then decline. This is why anxiety can appear suddenly, even in women who have never ever experienced it before. As a result, women may experience increased baseline anxiety, heightened stress reactivity, sleep disruption, which further worsens anxiety. Importantly, this can occur even in women with no prior mental history because the underlying regulatory system itself is changing. Number 3, the stress response and cortisol dysregulation. Another key factor in midlife anxiety is the regulation of cortisol and the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol is released via the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis in response to perceived threat. In healthy regulation, cortisol rises during stress and then returns back to baseline once the stress has passed. Research shows that with chronic or cumulative stress, cortisol regulation becomes less efficient. This phenomenon is well described in Bruce McEwen's work on allostatic load, which refers to the long-term wear and tear on the body from repeated stress activation. Midlife is often when cumulative stress, not easy to say, reaches a threshold. Years of responsibility, caregiving, emotional labour, and adaptation may finally manifest itself physiologically. When cortisol remains elevated and becomes erratic, the individual may experience persistent anxiety, hypervigilance, difficulty in relaxing, physical symptoms such as palpitations and digestive upset. Number 4, nervous system sensitization. Over time, the nervous system can become sensitized. This means it reacts faster and more intensely to things that once felt manageable. The autonomic nervous system consists of 2 branches: the sympathetic nervous system, responsible for mobilization and alertness, and the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest, digestion, and recovery. Repeated activation of the sympathetic nervous system over many years can lead to a state of heightened baseline arousal. This means the nervous system reacts more quickly and more intensely to stimuli that were previously manageable. This sensitization explains why anxiety in midlife often feels physical and immediate rather than cognitive. Symptoms such as chest tightness, dizziness, or breathlessness may appear without obvious triggers because the nervous system has become less tolerant to the stress. This process is gradual and often unnoticed until the symptoms become disruptive. The body may stay in a state of alert even when there's no immediate danger. Anxiety then feels physical, sudden, intense, and sometimes unexplained. This explains why many women say, "I don't know why I'm anxious." Number 5, identity and role change. Midlife is also marked by significant psychological restructuring. Many women experience changes in identity as long-standing roles shift or end. These may include children leaving home, changes in intimate relationships, loss of caregiving roles, career stagnation or transition, reduced external validation. Psychological research recognises that identity is closely tied to emotional stability. When roles that once provided meaning and structure diminish, individuals may experience uncertainty, disorientation, or a loss of coherence. This identity disruption increases psychological load, particularly when combined with biological vulnerability. Anxiety can emerge as the psyche attempts to orientate itself in a changing internal and external landscape or environment. 6. Grief, loss, and unprocessed emotion. Midlife often carries layers of grief. So loss of parents, loss of friends, loss of health, fertility, and loss of anticipated futures. When grief is not consciously processed, it may manifest somatically as anxiety, agitation, or emotional numbness. Grief activates the same neural networks involved in physical pain, threats, and detection. Over time, unresolved grief can maintain the nervous system in a state of heightened alert, increasing vulnerability and anxiety disorders. Now 7, the final one, sleep disruption as a catalyst. This is what you may be doing every night. Sleep disturbance is both a symptom and a cause of midlife anxiety. Hormonal changes, night sweats, and circadian rhythm shifts can disrupt sleep quality. Research consistently shows that reduced sleep impairs emotional regulation, increased amygdala reactivity, and reduces prefrontal control. Simply put, sleep is one of the strongest predictors of anxiety. Even slight sleep deprivation can significantly increase anxiety sensitivity. In midlife, this creates a loop. Hormonal change disrupts sleep, poor sleep increases anxiety, and anxiety disrupts sleep. If there is one thing you can do or concentrate on to alleviate or regulate anxiety, this is it. So, when anxiety begins in midlife, it is not as random as you may have thought. It reflects big internal changes across the body, the brain, and emotional world. Understanding this allows anxiety to be seen accurately as a response to transition and not a personal flaw. So how do I fix this, I hear you say? Well, it's not a quick fix, but there are certainly ways you can support your anxiety, which I will cover in part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or you want to share your thoughts or experiences, don't forget to leave comments below. And I hope to see you in the next video.